yes, soy Itzel Lopez, your host today for Nebraska Somos One, where we honor our past, acknowledge our present, and build our futuro. Today, we'll be having a little bit of a conversation about how diverse our community is, and I'm really excited to have our guests with us today. Not only are they outstanding community leaders, but they also have been contributing to the economic impact of our community for many, many years. And I think that's more than I can tell you about them, and you'll hear about their stories and how Omaha has been shaped by their families, and then how they are contributing to our community, not only now, but how they're helping us build the future. So with that, Marcos and Tony, hello, and buenos dias.
Hello.
Okay, so I think I was telling them before we got started how important it is for me to not only acknowledge what you've done for our community, but also to share your story and how you think Omaha has changed throughout the years. And when you're sharing that, please also tell us a little bit about your personal journey in that story. So either of you can start.
You know, I guess when you look at South Omaha, growing up in South Omaha, we've been there all our lives. I've been there all my life. And it's always been an immigrant. South Omaha's always known for immigrants. All throughout history, the immigrants. I seen some of and back when I was young, you know, the Czechs, the Polish, the Italians, all of those, and went to a lot of those different events. And then it's always just been diverse, you know. So, but of course now it's a new flavor, right? But it's always changed. So, South Omaha has always been special. I think people are always proud to be from South Omaha. Are
you also South Omaha boy?
South Omaha, yeah. Actually, kind of a small inside story. Marcos's mother and my mother were best friends growing up. We were acquaintances by default because of our moms. But yeah, I'm a South Omaha native. Grew up right on 24th and East Street. When I think of South Omaha, I think of like Marcos, immigrant, but hardworking, right? I think there's a saying out there, SOB, right? So there's actually a T-shirt out there saying, "I'm proud to be an SOB." So yeah, that's what I think of.
Are you too proud of being an SOB?
Of course.
So please describe with us a little bit of your first memories on how the neighborhoods have shaped your life, and obviously what you're doing today, and how that's similar or different. So any stories like that?
The neighborhood stories, yeah. Well, I know South Omaha like the back of my hand, because back then we walked to school, and we had to walk to school to everything. I went to St. Bridget's School, which now these days I think, wow, we were just like in second grade walking that far. That was a long ways to walk across 24th Street, but it wasn't as busy back then. But we just went everywhere, Spring Lake Park, this, that, going to the pool. It was just, the kids always played a lot back then. I remember that. We just played a lot, and we were going everywhere and doing things. It wasn't as diverse back then, but at the same time, we still played a lot and walked a lot, and maybe that's why I'm still in good shape, because I did so much walking back then. But what do you remember?
I wish I could say the same. I played golf now, so in my later years, but no, it was similar. We were talking about with the gentleman here earlier, who was a producer, that he went to Mars Junior High. I remember walking to Mars at certain times to junior high, and that wasn't close to our house on 24th and East. So walking was just a thing that you did, back in the neighborhood.
And exploring too. I think we were just kids explored. I mean, I know all the railroad tracks. We weren't supposed to, but we went down to all the railroad tracks, even businesses. We'd go in behind their place. We just knew everything. I don't know. It was always exploring as kids,
Absolutely.
We always, because mom and dad were working back then. Mom and dad had to work. A lot of times it was blue collar jobs. And then back then, they didn't give you rides or this. Like now everyone gives their parents rides. That wasn't happening back then. You had to walk. The parents weren't giving, because they had to go to work and they didn't have that option to give you a ride and things like that. So you had to really depend on yourself to do things in the neighborhood and just make things happen.
Mm-hmm. You guys remember any pivotal things that happened, growing up in Omaha that kind of shaped and defined what you wanted to do to make, again, be part of that change or make that change happen?
I don't know if it was particularly a change. It was such a booming livestock, stock exchange, South Omaha. It was just, that was kind of the thing. And
right.
There's probably nobody in our family back then, when I was growing up, that didn't work at the packing house, right? Or didn't work at what was another one down there? Like Falstaff.
Yep.
So those two, manufacturing or beef agriculture thing, that's just what you did, you know. So.
Yeah, in some of those different spots. So.
Yeah, there's a saying actually. I think like because it was horrible smelling in South Omaha, but they say it smells like money.
Gosh,
that's what I used to.
I wish I said that when I came.
It used to be a thing. That's what they said. That was my uncle used to say all the time.
It's funny you say that because I remember growing up in South Omaha also, and at the age of 12 when we arrived to Omaha, the smell was a reminder of how hard my parents worked also. And it's a daily reminder now that I live there of consistency, of hard work, and also to acknowledge, again, people that have done that for years and still doing that, right? And
Yep.
of course, their jobs, they're high-paying jobs, but they're also hard work. And talking about jobs and careers and all of that, like, I think this is a great transition to see. So obviously the meatpacking plants are still around. But what are some of those other things? Maybe share with us a little bit about your first jobs and like what are you doing now to acknowledge, you know, again, where your parents began, but also how you're shaping your children's future and what kind of jobs they have as their first jobs.
You know, my first thing was really doing I was a paper boy and just kind of hustling. I think I learned my mom and dad, well, one is they didn't graduate from high school and they worked, you know, blue collar jobs. But my mom, you know, had a rule that I'm not giving you anything. You know, you have to work for it. You have to do your own path. So there was nothing ever given to us. My first car, you know, I had to get a loan and do whatever. So everything that I had, nothing was ever given to me. So at a young age, I just started really kind of hustling. There was a lot of gambling back then too. I don't know why. It seems like everyone gambled. Remember bookies and all that different stuff that would go on. So I learned actually gambling at a young age too. So kids would be pitching pennies. So I was always kind of hustling a little bit of money at that young age of doing that. I don't remember lemonade stands, do lemonade stands on the corner and sell that. So I always had a little bit of pocket change in my pocket, you know, a little bit of money. But so that's what I passed on to my boys too, saying, you know, you have to learn. What do you want to do? What do you want to do? Yeah, we should get an education, but we should work hard and, you know, explore of these opportunities that we want to make for ourselves, but also our kids and, you know, and everybody that's, you know, in the community. How do we forge our path?
Yeah, I did also have a paper route. You know, I don't think I wasn't good at it, I don't think, but I didn't like it for much longer. It was always pressed upon me, like my grandparents were like, Mio, you're going to be our first doctor, you know, and so, but nobody had even a ninth grade education. So I was like, that's quite the leap, Grandma, you know, and so, but I think I always knew that I wanted to break out of the labor mindset of what the, you know, Hispanic or Latino thing was. I always thought there was going to be something different for me. And I think that happened because of my grandmother just always instilling a professional mindset into us. So yeah, that's it. I mean, just, you plant a seed and see where it goes, you know.
Hustle. What about some of the challenges that we have faced historically? And maybe you can point out at a time that, you know, that you realized, whether it was in college. It sounds like you were the first one to also pursue maybe higher education. I don't know, maybe that's true for all three of us, but like, what are some of those things that you had like an aha moments that that still happens? And although it's been years since, I remember you and I, Marco, specifically, we were talking about college, right? And our kids now are in college. And we was like, what's happening? It seems like we were back in the 90s again. Like nothing's changed. Or maybe it has. I don't know. You guys remember any stories like that?
You know, you want to say that it wasn't very diverse back then. You know, so if you look at it, was hardly any diversity. If we look at Latinos and blacks and all that, our numbers were really low. So, and there was a lot of bullyism too. I remember a lot of bullyism back then. You know, you had to really know how to handle yourself because there was a lot of that. But I think, you know, moving forward, looking at the lack of diversity and then people really, the Chicano Winter Center was in its early years when you look at when they were starting in the 70s, but then when we were in school, they would have a counselor that would pull us out of the schools to help us because there were very few of us. And they pulled me and said, Harry, you know, took me to UNO and helped. I didn't want to go to school back then. At that time it was Pink Floyd. We don't need no education. Everyone was very anti-education at that time. I don't know why. Maybe it was just an authoritative figure or whatever it may be, but it wasn't very diverse in that aspect. But if I speed it all the way up to now, and then when I went back to college, because I did end up getting a scholarship. I didn't use it back then, even though he took me to college. I didn't want to go back then, but I ended up going later on. Even when we went to college, it was still later on, some 10 years later, it was still lacked diversity, at the university because there was still very few of us. So I think looking at that, we see more diversity, but it's still, and right now that's not even a hot topic, but it's just when you look at ethnic groups and different immigrants throughout history, they've always been the one that's always taken the brunt of something. But I still feel throughout time, throughout South Omaha, and throughout that, we're still always fighting for things to make better for our families.
Indeed. Any stories like that too, Tony?
When I look back,
or maybe it's different.
Yeah, well, a little different, but I think kind of the common theme for all of it is when you're just doing the grind, you don't really have time to look outside those blinders of just trying to make it. And I think that's, for us, I would just say my family, that was always why our grandparents were always instilling, trying to get that education. Grandmother said, hey, education's the equalizer, right? It's the equalizer, so you're going to be our first doctor. And I still didn't believe it because I went to Creighton in 1983. Wonderful school, wonderful freshman onboarding program. But I joke about it and say I didn't want to read books and find out when George Washington crossed the Potomac. That wasn't important to me. But I could do math and science. And so I said after 1 year, Creighton decided to release me to the state schools. I went to UNO after that. So, but I'm joking about it in light, but it was a fine school, nothing wrong with it. But if you don't believe or can see yourself in those spots, it's real easy to fall out of those spots. And so eventually it worked out. I got a degree, but it was, I call it a journey. And that's kind of how we take our, that story and give it back to the kids to say, make a life decision. Well,
and now you're mentors, right?
Yeah.
Of many other youth that are like pursuing, whether it's formal higher education in or entrepreneurship or other avenues. You remember a story of a mentor that influenced your life while you were going through all of those challenges. Can you share a little bit about that person that inspired you, whether that's your parents, teacher? It sounds like you both took a little bit of a different route pursuing higher education in general.
I think two things. One is I was fortunate my family was like, because we went to my grandmother's every weekend. So all my cousins are like my brothers and sisters, my aunts and uncles, or like my second mom and dad. So we're a very close family. So my aunts and uncles are always very inspiring because it was very family oriented, and we just, stuck together. So I think that influence of them because we grew up in the arts. I started performing at the age of 7. And because that was just it. We were part of our culture and our community, and that's what we did. But later on when I went to college, I think I got turned on to other mentors, that helped us get more involved in the community. Dr. Jim Ramirez, that just recently passed, but he was so influential in so much of helping us. My counselors and teachers actually from the university, Dr. Lourdes Gouveia, Dr. Mike Carroll, Joe Valadez, that was my counselor. He wasn't just my academic counselor. He was also my everything. If something's wrong today, just help me through that. That was just so really got me started, when I was at the university because I needed that little bit of something, that guidance and push and, you're just starting to figure where am I going to go in life. So that really changed my life. So it really helped me out a lot.
Yeah, I kind of know that about Marcos, where he had a lot of great educator professors that influence. And back to what he was saying about family, like I couldn't go a block without having a family member being on that block in our neighborhood for like almost a mile, because so many of our family members lived in South Omaha. So like Marcos, my uncles were like my brothers. They lived across the street, walk over there almost every day, tortillas and butter every day from grandma. It was awesome. My uncles and aunts who lived a block away from us were like, a big influence.
That's great because now the younger generations are getting involved and continuing that. And so how do you relate to what's happening now. And of course, technology has changed a lot of the things that we do. And I remember visiting Marcos recently also, and he was talking about his children. And some of his children, you have children that want to pursue your formal higher education, and then you have children that are like, I don't really need that. So how... Obviously, with the, and I forgot to mention, but some of the things that you have accomplished, including founding the Barrientos Scholarship Foundation and other ways that you are pouring into our youth, are so relevant and yet so important and so needed. Talking about diverse, and most people forget, but over 12% of our entire population identify as Latino, and in Southeast Omaha, over 65% of our community identify as Latino. So how are we each piling up and supporting not only our own children, but in other capacities? How are those children now are going to help the next generation, right? So I guess in tying the youth, what are some of the things that you are perceiving with the changing in demographic in Omaha that feels different in South Omaha?
Well, one is, there's a lot of them. There's so many youth. When I went to my son's graduation, I saw all these kids and a lot of Latino kids. I couldn't believe how many there were. South is the biggest high school in the state, and it's just like tons and tons of Latino students. So, these young kids, and Tony's doing so much great work with young people. They're the future, and it's a little bit different from back in our day because we were more hands-on and getting out there and doing stuff, and we didn't have the technology and the phones. And I think when I first went the first year, we were still using typewriter on the first year of college. So, we didn't have all that yet. Yeah. So, but they also have the ability to connect in so many different ways. So, I'm excited to see the youth, and I think we need to mentor more, which we're starting to do, to kind of lead some of these other ones. And I think we have some new and upcoming leaders. So it's exciting to see where the youth's going to take it because there's a lot of them. So I hope to continue to see them explore and do things, and we help our own kids and see these other ones just really pursue their dreams, but hopefully lead too at the same time. So we'll need to help them a little bit, but I hope to see some more leaders. And I know Tony's doing a lot of great work. I mean, what do you think?
Well, you asked about mentors. I consider him a mentor. I mean, he's been doing this for 30 plus years, being a leader out there quietly, but yet big stuff, right? Festivals. But
I started when I was 5 then?
Exactly.
That's what he meant.
But John, Marcos and John did a great job of building the foundation of the Barrientos, and I'm just honored to serve, and our board honored to serve under what they've already started. So it's nothing other than just, I think, a little bit of like sprinkles on the cake that they've already built, so they've done a great job. But back to what you were saying is leadership, youth mentorship. I think when you're in a first gen mindset, you're trying to transition the youth from being an employee to a creator of their own, a value creator of their own, and then just, you could be a business owner as well. You can be, what do you want to do? And so really internally finding their own personal value, and then they can go anywhere with that mindset. So that's the kind of like Si Se Puede or Somos One mindset, yeah.
Indeed. Yeah. And we are one, and that's why this podcast is called Somos One. Yeah. One of the things I've been admiring, and obviously not only I admire you as persons and community leaders, and many people do. A lot of people forget, there's a strong sense of belonging in South Omaha, although we're the same city. Where do you think that comes from? Personally, of course.
Well, my grandparents, like I said, were a block away, and my grandparents, that was a family of 8 kids, right? So then there was 2 more, there's 10. A block away, there's 4 more. So I think belonging, it starts with family. And then I think if you become, like you guys, leaders in the community, you gain a little bit more responsibility as to saying, it's not just my family, but it's my neighborhood, right? You start owning it. And then you say, it's not just my neighborhood, it's my community. And I think that ownership piece, where we start taking personal pride in our neighborhoods and our communities, I think that becomes the theme, the glue that holds all this together. Back again, I'll say Somos One. I think if we all have a little bit of that mindset, it's not just, we should be upset if that kid in North Omaha gets in trouble. We should be upset if that kid in West Omaha gets in trouble. Those are our Nebraska kids, not just those kids. So I think the responsibility mindset needs to be for all of us.
That's true. And in that sense of belonging, I think that's where, like, we're moving forward, right? So acknowledging what's taken place in the past, and then now the present with our youth. But then as we're building the futuro, it's a great transition to Adelante, which is coming up. And when this airs, we will be hosting our dedication ceremony on May 2nd at 3 o'clock. So we all look forward to revealing the schematic designs of the upcoming Plaza de la Raza, which we're really, really excited. Well, I'm most excited. I don't know if you can tell, but one of the things also growing up in Omaha was one, yes, although I feel a sense of belonging to that Huachayo sax, I also was always looking for feeling that belonging, but in a shared capacity. Not just me. Everyone should feel like they belong. They belong to Omaha. And this park that we're building is about all of us. It's not just a park for South Omaha. It's a park for Omaha. And I can't wait. What do you think about these changes that are coming? How important are these for future generations? And if it didn't happen, what else should happen?
Well, I think we're all proud of South Omaha, and I think all we want to see for South Omaha is just a better community, a better business district. The economies continue to grow. I'm on the BID Business Improvement District Board, for South Omaha, for South 24th Street, and we're just trying to make it a better place. Our businesses, we're the second busiest business district right behind downtown. In Omaha, Nebraska. We're contributing to taxes and the vitality of Omaha. Omaha is growing. It's considered one of the, top cities in the country, and South Omaha is part of that, and we're proud of that. We have a lot of hardworking families doing a lot of great things. So we want to continue to see that prosper and contribute to the fabric of Omaha, right? To see that continue. So it's exciting, to see some of the things, but it's going to take funding, right? At the same time to do a lot of the stuff in South Omaha also. So we got a lot of work to do, but at the same time, we got a lot of hard workers willing to do it.
Yeah, I think, and you and I sat down like 3 years ago, and we talked a little bit about this, that I see such a significant opportunity with Itzel being in the economic position, Marcos being in the cultural position, Armando just crushing in the construction space, providing avenues for, skilled laborers to get now into skilled business people. And then, of course, the Barrientos Scholarship Foundation creating opportunities there. So I think it's a great opportunity for Omaha as a community to leverage us as a team and say, put us in, coach. We're ready. And so I think that's kind of the thing I look at is we have a lot of great kids coming up, and we're going to get them ready.
Yep. So what are some of the preserved things that we should try to hold on to? Although this change is great, right? Change is always going to happen. It's the only thing that maintains constant. What do you see about this change that we should also embrace and preserve some of our past? Like when these changes happen, if I'm getting to the question specifically, although this change is coming, what do you hope to stay?
I think there's a lot of stuff in South, or we talk about South Omaha, right? I mean, there's a lot of history there. I mean, when you look at the Italian area, the 10th Street of there, and it's kind of starting to get redeveloped, the church, which has been around for a long time right over there off of like 10th and Pacific. There's a lot of cool little areas, the parks, the Gerald Ford that's been over there, one of the presidents that was actually born over there, and Hanscom Park. So there's a lot of cool little areas in South Omaha, and we have these different parks and different areas. So I know there's some famous people that have been born in certain areas. So that'll continue, right? Because it's just a historic thing. I think sometimes we look at immigrants and these new people like, oh my God, da da da. But throughout history, each immigrant has contributed something, and then we keep a piece of that history, right? So this is just a new wave of contributions that will keep a lot of that past, a little bit of that was there before, and then we'll have some of the new things that will come and that will contribute to that new historic timeline.
And Marcos and I, like I said, we got reconnected in like 2014, I think, and he's allowed me to come underneath the umbrella of the Barrientos. But I've been learning more about my culture. Honestly, I didn't know a lot, but because of all his historical preservation work that he does in that space, I've become more knowledgeable and appreciative even in my own culture. So there's even a relational, I guess, internal, like, I appreciate it more now, so I respect it more. I mean, the work that you do with the magazine and the tourism stuff, I mean, you're touted. You just won the governor's top tourism award in 2023. The 2020?
Yep, 2023.
So 2023. So because of all the festival work and all the dynamic, people coming in from 5 different states, it's largest parade in literally the Midwest, is it not?
Yep.
So from a cultural perspective, I mean, if you want to just dive in deep, go to Cinco de Mayo, right? It's amazing.
That's right.
Yeah.
And that's coming up. And actually, that was one of the things I wanted to draw attention of is, of course, we're recording this in Omaha, Nebraska, but people all over the world will be watching.
Yeah.
So what will be the one thing, right, that people should know about South Omaha? And you mentioned, of course, attend the Cinco de Mayo festival, but like, what are we expecting this year? Because it's not only Cinco de Mayo. We're also celebrating 105 years of putting together Mexican festivals. What does that mean? 105 years, that's a long time.
Yeah, I mean, 105 years to think that our cultural contribution to Omaha, that is one of our historic contributions, and there was so much great, the Italians, I remember going to their festivals and all the different cool stuff. And I think it's us and the Italians that have had, these long festivals and going on for a long time. So it really just contributes to Omaha's fabric and shows this diversity there, but it also shows the world and the United States. It's like, wow, look at what they've done here, because really Nebraska's always still been a conservative white state, but it has a lot of great aspects to it, the football and this and that. And this is one great thing that's contributed to Nebraska and to Omaha, to say that we now have one of the largest festivals in the U.S., one of the top 3 Cinco de Mayos in the country, that people come from all over. They're coming from Kansas City, even we had some people that came from Oklahoma. And it's just because of the cool things that we're doing, right? And that's when you come to South Omaha, you're going to get some really good food. You're going to get this cultural diversity that you just really don't get in different places. And people come from all over, not just for Cinco de Mayo, but on the weekend. The weekend is packed because people are coming from all over, Nebraska and Iowa to come for what do we have? We have some unique products. We have some unique food. So when you come to Cinco de Mayo, you're going to see a couple miles of production, from that parade to the festival. We got 3 stages this year. We got groups that are just coming, really Mexican regional groups. That, we're going to have concerts and all these exhibitors. So it's going to be a great time.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, we always used to go to it when we were kids, right? And so it was fun, and it's just something you did. So I believe that's just part of what the city needs. When you think of like community spaces and making things fun and safe, that's just one of our beautiful cultural events. And if you want to see people for miles, I mean, it's just crazy. It's awesome. I used to be on a board for the boxing club in South Omaha, Victory Boxing Club. They even have an event every year where they come down and do a smoker event down there. So yeah, it's just really, really fun.
And I remember the first time I participated in the parade when I was still at Omaha South. And just to think that I could relieve that and feel like, there's a fiesta. Like, there is actually people that look like me. There's people that actually like the food that we eat at our home. There's people that enjoy that live music. And many people are still also surprised to hear, although, there's over 65% of the population in Southeast Omaha that identify as Latino. Well, the majority of those Latinos are from Mexican descendants. So not to draw attention to the Mexican regional music, but I mean, it is the majority. But we also like to acknowledge that just like the Mexican influence has had on this festival, because it is 105 years of Mexican-produced festivals, there are also 2 large Latino ethnic groups that are starting to create a lot of momentum, and that's the Guatemalan individuals and also folks from El Salvador. And I say that because a lot of people still don't know that there are 3 consulados or consulate offices, which is similar to embassy. If you're at a different country, you will look for your country of origin, an embassy. And so Omaha is well positioned to welcome more people from Latin America than any other city in our region. And to say that out loud, and people are still surprised to hear that. Just like they're surprised to hear that there's 1 in 4 children across the U.S. identify as Latino. Like, people that are not attending Cinco de Mayo, and it's right in our backyard, to your point. People are coming from Oklahoma to visit one of the largest produce festivals in our community, and yet folks from our community are not even coming down to South Omaha to enjoy this festival. What would you say to those that have not been at the festival? And is this the only opportunity we have for people to participate in community events like this? What would you say to someone that you just met about South Omaha, about Cinco de Mayo or any other event that takes place there?
Well, I got to brag on Marcos quite a bit, and if he hosts about 5 just community networking events, and really it's to create a welcoming environment for business folks to come in and just learn more about our culture. And if you know the Latino, even the other cultures, I mean, Salvadorans, is that pupusas?
Yes.
Right? So who doesn't love a good pupusa? But if you know anything about the Latino culture, Mexican food is, who doesn't love, a good margarita? We can Caucasian it a little bit and say nachos, right? So, but everyone loves nachos. But we're known for Mexican food, fiesta, culture, dance, and music. And of course, Barrientos is well known for 100 years for music.
Yep, 100 years this year.
100 years. Yeah. So anyway, if you want to learn more, go on the website CDM Omaha, and event pages are out there. We try to post all our events. We share with LADC, Barrientos, and of course CDM Omaha. So the water's good. Come on in. We welcome you to join us.
We made a commercial some years back, and in the commercial we said, South Omaha, come down to South Omaha. We celebrate Cinco de Mayo every day. It's not just the one weekend. It's telling people just to come down, because it's really just families, their kids, and some good food and shops and things like that. So we're really just trying to tell people to, hey, come down and check out South Omaha. Just like you go to Benson and Blackstone, and all these little cool areas in Omaha are really cool, right? And so South Omaha, it just has a different niche, and so do all these other ones. So I think what we need to see, I told the newscaster one time, I said, we don't really make Omaha a great city until we embrace all sectors of Omaha. We can promote this and promote that, but we don't become a wonderful, great city until we embrace North Omaha, South Omaha, Benson, every single part of town, because each one has a unique attribute for our city. So, yeah, we want people to come down to South Omaha. It's just, there's so much cool stuff that you're not going to find in other places in Omaha, and really good food for a good price.
Yeah, and we have amazing staples, right? From Howard's to Jacobo's, but then we also have the upcoming and more recent restaurants. Talk about Taqueria Tijuana, Típico Helado, and I love that you say that about Omaha will not be what it is if we don't embrace each part of our city. And that's why this podcast is called Nebraska Somos One, to remind ourselves that we are all residents of Omaha, and we are all residents of Nebraska. And as a matter of fact, we're all in the U.S., so I don't see why we're talking so differently of each other when we're like all at the same table. Yeah. And with that, I also like to point out that your contributions, not just in the art scene, with your family, Marcos, but also like Tony, the work that you're doing in supporting the pipeline of youth that are, getting ready to graduate from high school and potentially pursue college or the trades. Because just like we need cooks, we also need engineers. And just like we need engineers, we also need entrepreneurs and many different roles. And Latinos are everywhere. They're not in South Omaha only. And I don't know if you have heard this, but many, many, many times I have come across people and in our own city that will say, Well, I just don't know where to do outreach for the Latino community. The growing Latino community is making a huge impact on our economics. And to not invest in our growing Latino community is a disadvantage to all businesses, right? But they're like, well, I guess I need to start in South Omaha. Yes, you start in South Omaha, but we're not restricted to South Omaha.
Correct.
People are still surprised to hear, oh, I live in Waterloo and I'm Latina, or I live in Blair and I'm Latina, or any other of the adjacent cities. Yep. What will be, as we wrap up this podcast today, what will be the one thing that you will say, not just about South Omaha, but about meeting new people, sharing experiences, preserving our culture and our traditions? And I guess I don't want to keep going because I can say many other things. But what would you say to those that are new to this podcast, are tuning in, and don't know about you, Marcos, don't know about you, Tony, as a matter of fact, they might not even know who I am or what we're doing together. What would you say to those folks who are new, are intrigued, they want to tap into the market, not just for the economic impact, but also just to create new relationships? What would you say? Where do we start? How do they start?
Yeah, well, Tony mentioned our event, Mi Casa, Su Casa, because our organization is called Casa de la Cultura, and then you can go to our website. We got a few different websites, but if you Google Casa de la Cultura, we have Mi Casa, Su Casa, and that was just meant to people that want to, our community sharing our different businesses, right, and our culture, which we have all these cool networking events in Omaha that I've gone to the chamber and this and that, and they're really nice, but it's like, well, we want to do something in South Omaha that's a little bit different. So I would suggest they go to that because, one, you're going to come to new business, you're going to meet a lot of our business leaders, but then at the same time, you're going to create that network. You're going to be able to build that business. I know the last one we brought in, we had Woodman Life there, and they have their main office downtown. They brought a bunch of their leaders there, and there was a lot of business that people made, and traded cards and did this. Hey, he's like, I walked away. He goes, I got 5 new contacts. I'm doing business with 5 new people today, just by coming down to South Omaha. So that's what we're trying to create, saying, hey, come down and do some business, because these are the next generation of business leaders, and they're making things happen. So I would suggest to come to one of our networking events, or just come down to South Omaha in general, just walk around and check it out. I mean, when I go to any city or this or that, I start to explore and talk to people and, just explore a little bit.
Indeed.
Yeah, I agree. I think we should all continue to attend all our events. The Mi Casa events are amazing. It's super welcoming, always great food and music. You always have some really good dancers that come and actually perform as well. So it's really a great experience. But if I were to just give advice to just the Omaha community in general, I retired UPS 37 years, and so I was fortunate to deal with a lot of businesses. But what I got to see is that people just need help connecting, and we often run in silos because we're just busy doing our own thing, And I think that's what Barrientos Scholarship Foundation comes in, is we stand in the gap and we pull people together and create a readiness opportunity, the ground's fertile, almost opportunities. Mm-hmm. I think we run in silos way just too much. So I think community events like Mi Casa, we have our scholarship event, La Viva Luncheon coming up May 29th. We're going right through our scholarship application process right now. So come to that event as well. It's at MCC, May 29th. It's a luncheon. You get to see 21 youth, aspiring youth leaders going to come up in the next, few years here now. But back to your question about, wherever they're at in the season of their life, it doesn't matter if they want to get a master's degree, a doctorate degree, but we also work very closely with the union contractors or, construction, wherever the students want to go. It's about making a life decision and becoming a great civic student or a great civic community person and getting out there and doing something.
And I guess as we wrap up, I'd like to remind folks, obviously, the Latino Economic Development Council is also here to support and connect you to not just these amazing community leaders, but in other resources. I know also as we continue to grow and into this largest ethnic group in our community, how do we plug them into volunteerism that is meaningful for our next generation of of leaders, which most likely will look Latino. So if you're interested in learning more about Marcos, Tony, myself, or any of the organizations that we are part of, make sure you subscribe to the podcast. Make sure you continue to visit with us online. Follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, any other ways that people should reach out to you. Probably not. I don't want to give people cell phones on the podcast, but just know that we are approachable, right? And that we are here to connect. And for our aspiring youth, if you are watching this and you don't know how to begin, right? And you're in high school, you're in college, and you don't feel like you belong, reach out to any of us. We will be happy to connect you not only with other students that may look like you. What if you're just curious about the Latino community? Well, then, again, we welcome you to attend our dedication ceremony May 2nd at Plaza de la Raza at 3 o'clock. There is also the Cinco de Mayo Festival taking place May 9th to the 11th. And then you mentioned Viva Luncheon, and that's May
29th.
May 29th, and that's at Metro Community College, South
yeah.
Omaha campus. Okay, well, so there are many different ways for you to reach out to us, connect with us, meet us in person at any of the upcoming events in May. But for now, that's it for today. And again, this is Nebraska Somos One, where we honor our past, acknowledge our present, and build our futuro. Gracias.